I will tell you, though, that I do find teaching certainly an intense and exhausting job. And to be honest, full disclosure here, by Friday night at 7:20 now, I'm pretty much fried. And the students in my classroom will tell you that when I get fatigued, my verbal skills are the first thing to go. So I don't know if this, you might, Lindsay, if it's not too late, it might be a good idea actually we could just go right to the next speaker. And then all the rest of you, we all come back here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. My talk will be so much better. Really. But maybe not. Actually, as I was preparing to become a teacher at UWM, I started to realize that some of the life lessons that I had learned in my previous career were going to serve me well also in my new academic life. The first time I realized this was when I studied at UWM. I did do it for about a year, and I went after and pursued becoming certified to teach both math and physics. Because I got to tell you, I was worried that people would be willing or interested in hiring a brand new 55-year-old person to teach high schoolers. And so I thought by pursuing both certifications, I'd improve my chances. The problem was that both of those programs, the math program and the physics program, they were structured as if that was the only thing you were doing. And so my 20-something-year-old colleagues who were working in one or the other, they were doing fine. I was just in the middle of a ton of work. And it occurred to me a number of times, oh my God, whose crazy idea was this? Anyway, it was really a ton of work and very difficult. A couple of years ago, my friends at the College Board, the AP folks, announced that there would now be 4 different AP Physics classes offered or available. And so I recall, and I'm sure Mr. Bowers does as well, that I went to Mr. Bowers and said, hey, Mr. Bowers, I think it'd be super cool if we taught all 4 of them here at HomesTED High School. And I think it would be just awesome. It'd be the greatest thing ever. And Mr. Bowers said, Paul, are you sure about this? I said, yeah, it's going to be just awesome. We're going to be serving students. I can do it. I know I can do it. He said, I would never ask you to do this. Are you sure? Oh yeah, it's going to be great. And last year, my first year of doing that, I got to be honest with you, there were a number of nights or early mornings when I was struggling trying to decide what we were going to do in class that day, when I started to think, my God, what was I thinking? This is just crazy. Maybe you, students, have been in a similar situation where you're interested in lots of extracurriculars. They're fun to do, right? You sign up to do the musical, or maybe forensics, or maybe robotics, or all those things are fun, and you like them, and you're good at them. And you find yourself, at 11 o'clock or midnight, struggling with the homework for your stretch class that also sounded like a good idea when you signed up for it. And you're exhausted, and you just don't get it. And all you can think of is, what was I thinking? And I'm going to tell you that all of these are just examples of something that we used to joke about when I worked at Johnson Controls. And in physics, I'm always talking about, we're learning about laws of this and laws of that. We have Newton's laws, and we have the second law of thermodynamics, which actually is really an interesting thing. So over time, things tend to go from order to disorder. And anyone who's seen a teenager's bedroom or my sock drawer knows that that's true. We're always talking about law, so I decided to call this law, this thing that we used to joke about at Johnson Controls, the first law of good ideas. So, go for it. Sooner or later, every good idea degenerates. It's the truth, isn't it? It is absolutely the truth. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? That is not a good reason to not do it. A good idea is still a good idea. Perseverance, grit, all of that stuff is necessary to get it done. I can tell you, that when I've been in those personal situations and the math and physics certification, for example, the teaching 4 different AP classes, every time I've been successful at any of those, it's been so worth it. And as I've looked back at the hard work, I can also honestly tell you that I remember those days with really great fondness and as fun. You know, I might not have thought it at the time, but God, that was exciting. It was fun. I grew. It was definitely worth it. Definitely worth doing. And I'd encourage you to do the same. Effort is the path to mastery. And so you all knew that this slide was going to find its way into my presentation eventually. We're going to talk about growth mindsets eventually. Carol Dweck wrote those words. Effort is the path to mastery. We talk about grit, perseverance. My students are sick of hearing me say the words growth mindsets, but I think they still understand that it's the right thing and a valuable thing, and we need to be reminded of it. Really interesting. Carol Dweck wrote an article a few months ago, which was kind of an update. She called it an update on growth mindsets. And she expressed the thought, and even kind of like the concern or regret maybe even, that she had stressed just effort by itself, maybe a little bit too much in this. And she made the point that effort by itself is not enough. That's not enough. It's not just effort and that's it. And that made me think about another thing I learned in my previous career. I learned this from one of my bosses. He was definitely not the best boss I ever had, but his words stuck with me in this instance. I was a division manager, and I had responsibility for my division, and we had performance targets that were monitored on a monthly basis, usually like financial targets and customer satisfaction targets, that sort of stuff. And we'd review them, and we were held accountable for them. And they were tough to do. And we were reviewing them one month, and I was reviewing them with my boss. And there was one target, we missed it. And I was explaining to my boss that there were a number of circumstances that were clearly out of our control, which is true. And that it was stuff that no one really could have foreseen. And my boss was very empathetic, I would say, and understanding. He didn't get angry. I think he liked me, actually. But he said to me, I understand, Paul, but I guess, at the end of the day, good reason for not getting it done isn't the same thing. The cold hard fact is that results matter. They do. Results matter. This is kind of what Carol Dweck was getting at, too. It's just effort just by itself isn't enough. Results do matter. And good reasons. Sometimes there are good reasons for not getting something done. If you have ever asked a student why they're late for first hour, there's just a whole list of good reasons. And Angie, that would be actually a creative writing assignment. That's creative writing. But it made me think, it made me reflect in this instance with my boss, and we missed this target, that, yeah, you know what, and he said it just in this calm, kind of matter-of-fact way, wasn't angry, and it made me think that, maybe, all these things that I listed were true. Those were facts. They were reasons. They made it certainly more difficult, if not impossible, for us to get it done. But it made me think that, maybe I've been a little too willing to accept not getting it done. And maybe if I had been a little bit more creative or thought about things a little bit differently, maybe I could have found a way to get it done in spite of that. Maybe, maybe not. But it made me reflect on that. At the end of the day, results do matter. So there you have the first 2 laws of good ideas. Sooner or later, every good idea degenerates into hard work. Good reason for not getting it done isn't the same thing as getting it done. Kind of hard and cold stuff, but that is real world, I'll tell you. But I would be uncomfortable if I left you with that thought. I do want to remind you that at the end of the day, we all pursue and strive for good results, certainly. But we are all more than our resumes. We are all more than our GPAs. We are not defined by our ACT scores. It's as I try to remind my students when they're about to take, especially, let's say, an AP Physics final exam, perhaps, and they're sitting there in living terror. Oh my God, it's so bad, it's so bad. Keep it in perspective, calm down. The people who loved you before this test, they're still going to love you after this test. I'm still going to love you after this test. Parents are still going to love you after this test. Unless they don't already love you. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to love you after this test. I'm still going to love you. And maybe we call that the first law of being a human being. I'm still going to love you. Yeah. Lucy, thanks a lot for asking me to do this tonight. It really does mean a lot.